In the heart of a bustling city on Earth, the International Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center was a hive of activity. As dusk painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, people from various corners of the universe gathered inside the Grand Hall, a testament to human architectural prowess designed to welcome the galactic community. David Miller, a human cultural liaison, was fine-tuning the details for the evening's reception when he first noticed her. Lyra, an anthropologist from the planet Vanar, stood near a replica of an ancient Earth sculpture, her eyes tracing the human forms intertwined in marble. David approached, clipboard in hand, his role necessitating the bridging of worlds. "Welcome to Earth, Dr. Lyra. I hope the journey from Vanar was comfortable," he said, extending a hand in greeting. Lyra's hand was slender, her touch cool and smooth. "Thank you, Mr. Miller. The journey was enlightening, and your planet is quite beautiful," she replied, her voice melodic yet unfamiliar with the nuances of Earth's dialects. "As part of the exchange, I'm here to help you navigate our customs and hopefully learn from yours," David explained, gesturing towards the crowded hall. "Shall we mingle? I can introduce you to some of our leading cultural experts. That would be most appreciated. I am particularly interested in understanding the social dynamics of your species," Lyra said, her gaze curious and eager. As they walked, David pointed out various groups engaged in conversation. "Here we have representatives from different human nations. Each has its own unique culture and traditions, yet we find common ground in settings like this." They stopped beside a group of men and women discussing Earth's musical traditions. David introduced Lyra to Tom, a renowned musician known for integrating traditional and futuristic sounds into his compositions. Tom shook Lyra's hand with enthusiasm. "Dr. Lyra, a pleasure. Have you experienced much Earth music?" he asked. "Only in recordings. The emotional expression is quite compelling," Lyra responded, her attention caught by a nearby string quartet setting up for a live performance. "Then you're in for a treat tonight," Tom said. He turned to David. "We should get her a front row seat for the performance later." "Absolutely," David agreed. "But first, let's give Dr. Lyra a taste of Earth's culinary delights." Leading her to the buffet, they met Chef Anna, who had prepared a selection of dishes from around the world. "Dr. Lyra, I hope you find these offerings to your liking. Each dish represents a different region of Earth," Anna explained, serving a small, artfully arranged plate for Lyra. Lyra sampled a bite, her expression thoughtful. "Fascinating," she murmured. "The flavors are so distinct and yet harmonize well together. It's much like our people," David noted. "Different, but better together." Their tour continued with introductions to scholars, artists, and diplomats. Each conversation offered Lyra insights into human culture, and David found himself intrigued by her observations, often seeing his own world through her eyes. As the evening wore on, the string quartet began to play, their melodies weaving through the air. Lyra and David paused in their conversations to listen. "This music," Lyra said, "it's as if I can feel the composer's emotions. Is it always so moving?" "Often," David replied. "It's one of the ways we express what words sometimes cannot." As the music enveloped them, David saw Lyra close her eyes, lost in human art form. He watched her, seeing not an alien, but a fellow seeker of knowledge, a partner in the dance of interstellar understanding. In that moment, under the soft lights of the Cultural Exchange Center and the melodies of Earth, a bridge began to form between human and alien, a bridge built on mutual curiosity and the promise of countless shared tomorrows. Chapter 2, Lessons in Language. The next morning dawned bright and crisp, a typical early spring day on Earth. David had arranged for Lyra's second day to be filled with interactive workshops focusing on communication and human social practices. They met at a cafe near the Cultural Exchange Center, a popular spot buzzing with the chatter of various species and humans alike. "Good morning, Lyra. Did you sleep well?" David asked as he greeted her with a warm smile, holding out a cup of Earth's traditional coffee for her. "Quite well, thank you," Lyra replied, accepting the coffee. "I'm eager to continue our exploration of human cultures today." David led her to a private room upstairs, designed for quieter, more focused interactions. Already waiting inside was Michael, a linguist specialized in xenolinguistics. He stood up to shake Lyra's hand. "Dr. Lyra, I'm Michael. I've heard much about your work on Vanar's communication forms," he said enthusiastically. "I'm looking forward to exchanging ideas with you." Lyra's eyes lit up. "And I am equally curious about your insights into human languages. Shall we begin?" Michael nodded and directed them to a round table with various digital devices laid out. Today, we'll start with some basic linguistic structures and see how they compare to Vaynar's methods of communication. As Michael dove into explanations of syntax and semantics, Lyra listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions or comparisons to her own language. David observed, fascinated by the depth of the exchange. He contributed occasionally, explaining cultural context behind certain idiomatic expressions. Like this phrase here, David said, pointing to a sentence on the screen. "It's raining cats and dogs." Quite a puzzling expression if you take it literally, isn't it? Lyra chuckled. Indeed, we have a similar expression in Vaynar, though it involves sandstorms or rocks. It's interesting how weather plays a role in our idioms. The morning passed with lively discussion and laughter as they moved from linguistic structures to nonverbal communication. Here, another specialist, Dr. Hank, joined them. Hank was an expert in human gestures and body language. Nonverbal cues can be as informative as spoken words, Hank explained, demonstrating various gestures. For instance, this, he showed a thumbs up, is a common positive gesture among humans. Lyra mimicked the gesture, turning her hand several ways. And to think on Vaynar, a similar gesture can imply confusion. Context is truly everything. After a brief pause for lunch, the afternoon session focused on practical applications. They visited a nearby marketplace, where David and the specialists encouraged Lyra to observe and interact with vendors and shoppers. "Try asking for directions to the bookstore," David suggested, nodding towards a busy corner of the market. Lyra approached a stall, her expression focused as she carefully used the phrases she'd learned. The vendor responded warmly, pointing her in the right direction and even recommending his favorite books. "Thank you very much," Lyra said, the human phrase feeling more natural on her tongue. Back at the cafe, as the sun began to set, the group debriefed over another round of coffee. Michael and Hank noted Lyra's rapid adaptation and commendable linguistic ability. "Your proficiency is impressive, Lyra," Michael said. "It's clear you have a strong grasp of the subtleties of human communication." Lyra's face lit up with a grateful smile. "This has been a truly enlightening day. Thank you all for your guidance." David leaned back, his eyes meeting Lyra's. "It's our pleasure. Understanding each other is the first step towards true cooperation among species." As they all agreed, the day ended not just with new knowledge gained, but with a sense of camaraderie and anticipation for the days ahead. Chapter 3. The Art of Understanding. The following day, David arranged for a cultural immersion that was less about language and more about visual and emotional expressions, an art exhibition featuring human and alien art. The venue was a gallery that showcased artworks from various Earth cultures alongside pieces brought by alien visitors. Upon arriving, David introduced Lyra to the curator, George, a jovial man with a deep appreciation for interstellar art forms. "Dr. Lyra, welcome. I hope today inspires both awe and insight." George greeted her with a broad smile. "Thank you, George. I'm fascinated to see the artistic expressions from different worlds," Lyra replied, her eyes scanning the colorful array of artworks displayed around them. As they began their tour, George pointed out a particularly striking piece from Earth, a painting that depicted the human emotion of longing through abstract forms. "This piece here tries to capture the essence of yearning, something that's both personal and universal," George explained. Lyra studied the painting closely. "It's interesting. On Vaynar, we use music to express similar sentiments. Visual art tends to be more celebratory." "That's quite intriguing," David remarked. "It shows how different mediums can be used to convey similar emotions across cultures." Their conversation was joined by another visitor, Alex, an artist known for his work in digital media. Alex was keen to discuss the techniques used in both human and alien artworks. "Have you worked with digital mediums, Lyra?" Alex asked as they moved to a sculpture made with holographic technology. "Not much, but I'm curious about the potential for blending traditional Vaynarian techniques with holography," Lyra responded, her voice full of curiosity. Alex's eyes lit up. "That sounds like a groundbreaking fusion. Perhaps you and I could collaborate on a project while you're here. What do you think?" Lyra was intrigued. "I would like that very much. It would be a valuable experiment in cultural exchange and artistic synthesis." The group continued their exploration, discussing each piece's cultural background and artistic significance. David noticed Lyra's keen interest in a series of small, intricate sculptures. "These are from an Earth artist who believes in the interconnectedness of all life forms," he explained. Each sculpture represents a different aspect of Earth's biodiversity. Lyra touched one gently, her expression thoughtful. There's a similar philosophy on Vanar. It's fascinating to see the concept expressed through such different artistic forms. As the afternoon turned to evening, George suggested they all participate in a workshop being held in the adjacent studio. It's a hands-on session where you can create your own art using Earth techniques mixed with alien styles if you wish, he explained. The group eagerly agreed and moved to the studio, where canvases, paints, and various tools were set up. David and Lyra chose to work on a canvas together, deciding to blend human and Venerian artistic styles. What if we start with a Venerian base pattern and overlay it with human-inspired brushstrokes? David suggested, handing Lyra some brushes. That sounds perfect. Let's see where our creativity takes us, Lyra agreed, beginning to sketch out a flowing, geometric pattern typical of her planet. As they painted, they talked about their homes, their hopes, and the little details of daily life. The act of creating together seemed to dissolve any lingering barriers, their collaboration growing steadily into a vivid expression of their newfound friendship. By the end of the session, they stepped back to admire their joint effort, a canvas that beautifully married two very different artistic languages into one harmonious piece. It's more than art, Lyra said, gazing at their work. It's a dialogue. David nodded, smiling at her. Exactly. And it's just the beginning. Their day at the gallery not only deepened their understanding of each other's cultures, but also strengthened the bond forming between them, rooted in shared experiences and mutual appreciation for beauty in all its forms. Chapter 4: Beneath the Same Stars. After a day steeped in artistic expression, David planned an evening that was decidedly more relaxed but no less enriching. He invited Lyra to join him at one of Earth's renowned remote observation decks for a night of stargazing, an activity cherished by many cultures across the galaxy. When they arrived, the sky was a velvet tapestry pricked with countless stars. The observation deck was perched on a high ridge, offering a panoramic view of the heavens. Joining them was Dr. Sam Chen, an astronomer known for his work on interstellar phenomena. Dr. Lyra, it's an honor, Sam greeted, extending his hand. I've heard much about your culture's contributions to astrological studies. Thank you, Dr. Chen. The cosmos is a shared passion among many Venerians, Lyra replied, her gaze lifting to the sky. David led them to a set of telescopes set up for the night. Sam has prepared a few constellations that he'll help us locate. Some are visible from both Earth and Vanar, he explained. Sam adjusted one of the telescopes. Let's start with something familiar to us all, the Orion constellation. It's known as the Hunter here on Earth. Lyra peered through the telescope, observing the alignment of stars. On Vanar, it's called the Shield Bearer. It's associated with protection and vigilance. Fascinating how different cultures find distinct meanings in the same clusters of stars, Sam noted, making notes on a digital pad. They moved from one constellation to another, each time comparing notes on their respective myths and interpretations. The air was filled with the soft murmur of the wind and the technical clicks of the telescopes adjusting. As the night deepened, David brought out a portable projector that displayed star maps. He pointed out Earth's solar system and then asked Lyra to locate Vanars. It's here, in a Lyra constellation, Lyra explained, directing the projector to highlight her system. Our myths say that our planet was sung into existence by the celestial lyres. That's beautifully poetic, David responded, genuinely moved. Here, we have tales of cosmic battles and creations from dust. It seems both our peoples look to the stars to explain our existence. Their conversation drifted from mythology to personal aspirations. Sam shared his dream of mapping unexplored star systems, while David spoke of his hopes for further cultural exchanges like theirs. What about you, Lyra? What do you hope to achieve with your studies on Earth? Sam asked. Lyra took a moment before answering, her eyes still fixed on the stars. Understanding, above all. Understanding your people, your culture, your place in the cosmos. And perhaps finding ways to bridge our worlds not just scientifically, but emotionally and philosophically. The night wound down with a session of meteor watching. Lying on blankets, they watched streaks of light decorate the sky, a universal spectacle of fleeting beauty. It's moments like these I think humans and Venerians aren't so different after all, Lyra mused. We all share the same sky, the same awe when we look up. Yes, David agreed. And perhaps by sharing these moments, we make the vastness of space a little less daunting. As they packed up to leave, the connection between them, underpinned by the shared experience of the cosmos, felt deeper and more profound. They had looked at the stars together, but more importantly, they had seen a bit of each other's worlds through their eyes, a mutual discovery that was as expansive as the night sky itself. Chapter 5: Echoes of the Heart. The following morning brought an unexpected shift in their interstellar cultural exchange. The local university had invited David and Lyra to participate in a public debate about the ethics of interspecies relationships. The topic had sparked interest across various communities, and the auditorium was filled with a mix of humans and aliens eager to hear different perspectives. David and Lyra met outside the auditorium, where they were greeted by the event organizer, Dr. Leo Franklin, a sociologist known for his work on intercultural relations. Dr. Lyra, Mr. Miller, thank you for agreeing to this, Dr. Franklin said, shaking their hands. This is a delicate subject, and having both your insights will be invaluable. We appreciate the opportunity, Leo, David responded. It's a discussion that's becoming more relevant by the day. Inside, the stage was set with 2 podiums. The audience murmured with anticipation as they took their seats. Dr. Franklin introduced the topic and the speakers, setting the tone for a respectful and open dialogue. Lyra spoke first. On Vanar, relationships, be they friendship, kinship, or romantic, are grounded in mutual understanding and respect. What I've observed here on Earth resonates with that. Despite our physiological and cultural differences, the fundamental desire to connect and understand is universal. A man from the audience raised a question. But aren't there inherent risks in forming bonds with species so different from our own? How do you address those concerns? David took the question. There are risks, of course. Misunderstandings, misinterpretations, but those exist even within human relationships. The key is communication, education, and above all, empathy. By learning from each other, we mitigate those risks. Another audience member, a woman from a distant galaxy, chimed in. Isn't there also a potential loss of cultural identity when species intermingle closely? Lyra nodded thoughtfully. It's a valid concern. On Vanar, we cherish our cultural heritage deeply. But sharing our culture with others doesn't mean losing it. Rather, it enriches both parties. It's not about assimilation, but about sharing and growing together. The debate continued with more questions and discussions, ranging from ethical dilemmas to societal impacts. David and Lyra addressed each with honesty and insight, drawing from their own experiences and the broader implications of their exchange. As the session drew to a close, Dr. Franklin concluded, this conversation doesn't end here. It's just beginning, and it's one that we need to have openly and regularly as our worlds come closer together. The audience applauded, many staying back to talk more informally with David and Lyra. The discussion spilled out into the corridors, vibrant with differing opinions but unified in their pursuit of understanding. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, David turned to Lyra. How do you feel it went? Lyra smiled. It was challenging but rewarding. To voice our thoughts so publicly, it's daunting but necessary. David agreed. It's discussions like these that push us forward, isn't it? They make us think, reflect, and hopefully grow. As they walked out of the auditorium, the echoes of the debate lingered in their minds. They had not only defended their burgeoning relationship, but had also advocated for a broader, more inclusive view of interspecies interactions. It was clear that their journey together was about more than just personal connection. It was about paving the way for a deeper interstellar understanding. Chapter 6: Intimacies of a New World. As the days progressed, David and Lyra found themselves drawn into a deeper, more personal exploration of their connection. With a public debate behind them, they decided to spend a quiet evening at Lyra's temporary residence on Earth, a space designed to mimic Venerian environmental conditions but with modifications to accommodate human comfort. David arrived with a selection of Earth's culinary delicacies, hoping to share a piece of his world just as Lyra had shared hers. As he entered, the soft ambient lighting and the gentle hum of Venerian music created a serene backdrop. David, come in. I've been looking forward to this evening. Lyra greeted him, her voice carrying a warm tone. I brought some dishes I thought you might like to try, David said, presenting her with the food. Some are traditional, others are a bit more contemporary. Lyra examined the dishes with curiosity. This looks fascinating. Let's enjoy it together. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They discussed everything from daily routines to deeper, more philosophical topics. The meal served as another layer of their cultural exchange, each flavor sparking a new topic of conversation. After dinner, they moved to a more comfortable sitting area, where Lyra had arranged a selection of Venerian literature for David to see. She handed him a book, its cover adorned with intricate designs. "This is one of my favorite pieces," Lyra explained. "It's a collection of stories about the star paths, how we believe our destinies are intertwined with the cosmos." David was captivated as Lyra read a passage aloud. Her voice, combined with the lyrical beauty of her language, made the stories come alive. It was an intimate sharing of her heritage, and David felt honored to be part of the experience. Moved by the stories, David shared one of his own, a classic Earth tale about explorers venturing into unknown lands, not unlike their own journey of exploration into each other's worlds. As the evening grew late, the atmosphere between them shifted. Sitting close together, their conversation turned to the topic of their growing closeness. David reached out, tentatively taking Lyra's hand. She responded by closing the distance between them, her eyes reflecting both the soft light and a deep curiosity. "David, these past days have been illuminating," Lyra said softly. "I feel a connection, one that I've never experienced before." David nodded, his voice gentle. "I feel it too, Lyra. It's like discovering a new horizon together." Encouraged by her receptiveness, David leaned in, and their first kiss was tentative, a gentle testing of unfamiliar waters. As they pulled back slightly, they searched each other's faces for affirmation. The mutual desire to continue was clear. They explored this new intimacy slowly, with care for each other's comfort. Lyra guided David's hand to where her species expressed affection, slightly different from humans, yet profoundly meaningful. The night unfolded with a shared respect for their differences and a keen eagerness to learn about each other. Their interactions were marked by an open, trusting dialogue about what felt right, what boundaries stood, and how they could honor each other's needs. As David finally said goodnight, leaving Lyra's residence in the early hours of the morning, there was a palpable sense of closeness that had formed, a bridge between two vastly different beings, brought together by a shared curiosity and now bound by a deeply personal bond. They had touched across species, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually, marking a significant step in their relationship and their understanding of each other. Chapter 7. Touching Across Species. In the wake of their newfound intimacy, David and Lyra decided to channel their experiences into a joint presentation aimed at the broader interstellar community. Their topic, Touching Across Species, the love of a human and an alien, was to be a detailed discussion of their journey, from first contact to the deep emotional connections they have forged. The venue was the auditorium at the International Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center, where they had first met. As they prepared backstage, David reviewed their slides, each one a careful blend of personal narrative and broader cultural insights. "Are you ready for this?" David asked, looking over at Lyra with a reassuring smile. Lyra nodded, her expression serene. "I believe what we have to share is important, not just for us but for anyone considering the possibilities of interspecies relationships." As they stepped onto the stage, the audience greeted them with an attentive silence. David began the presentation by recounting their initial meeting, emphasizing the curiosity and openness that had marked their first interactions. "As we navigated our differences," David explained, "we found that what makes us unique also brought us closer. We didn't ignore our differences. We embraced them, learned from them." Lyra took over, her voice clear and confident. "Our cultures are vastly different. Where David expresses emotion through words and gestures, Venerians often use harmonic tones. It was a learning curve, understanding these modes of expression. The audience was captivated as Lyra described their first cultural missteps, then their deeper explorations of each other's worlds. She spoke of the night they shared Venerian literature and Earth stories, highlighting how these exchanges deepened their understanding and respect for each other. David then discussed the emotional aspects of their relationship. It wasn't just about romance. It was about building a bridge between our worlds. Every conversation, every shared experience was a step towards understanding not just each other, but our species. They showed a slide of their art collaboration, the piece they had created together in the gallery. "This artwork," Lyra said, "represents more than a fusion of styles. It symbolizes the potential for unity and mutual enrichment through shared creative endeavors." The discussion shifted to more sensitive topics, like the initial physical hesitations and the importance of consent and communication. "When we decided to explore a deeper physical connection," David said, choosing his words carefully, "it was with the utmost respect for each other's comfort and boundaries." Lyra elaborated on this point. In Venerian culture, physical touch is sacred. Sharing that with David was a profound gesture of trust, one that we approached with both seriousness and tenderness. The final part of their presentation focused on the societal reactions and personal resolutions. We face skepticism and curiosity, David acknowledged. But we've learned that overcoming prejudices begins with dialogue and openness. As they concluded, Lyra repeated the phrase that had become a cornerstone of their relationship and their talk, touching across species. It's about more than physical contact. It's about reaching out, emotionally and intellectually, to find common ground in uncommon territory. The audience responded with thoughtful applause, many staying afterward to ask questions or share their own experiences. Backstage, David and Lyra reflected on the journey they had shared. "Do you think we made a difference today?" Lyra asked. "I think so," David replied, squeezing her hand. "At the very least, we opened a few minds to the possibilities." Their shared presentation not only marked a milestone in their personal journey, but also contributed to a broader conversation about the complexities and potential of interspecies relationships in a universe rich with diversity. Chapter 8: A Universal Harmony. As Lyra's time on Earth approached its end, the International Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center organized a farewell party in her honor. The event was held in the same grand hall where she and David had first met, now transformed with decorations representing a blend of Earth and Venerian cultures. David arrived early to ensure everything was perfect. He greeted Lyra with a gentle smile as she entered, looking around at the festive setup with a mix of sadness and appreciation. "This looks wonderful, David." "You've outdone yourself," Lyra said, her voice tinged with emotion. "It's a small tribute to everything you brought to us," David replied. "I wanted your last evening to be memorable." The hall filled quickly with guests from various planetary backgrounds, all eager to bid farewell to Lyra. Among them was Dr. Chen, the astronomer they had stargazed with. He clapped David on the shoulder as he approached. "Going to be a tough goodbye, eh?" Dr. Chen remarked, glancing between David and Lyra. "It will be," David admitted. "But we're planning on keeping the communication lines open. Aren't we, Lyra?" "Absolutely," Lyra confirmed. "Distance is just another variable we'll learn to navigate." The evening progressed with speeches from various colleagues who had worked with Lyra, each sharing anecdotes and expressing gratitude for her insights and friendship. When it was David's turn to speak, he stood before the gathering, his heart full. "Lyra has taught us more than just about her culture. She's shown us the power of curiosity and the strength of connection," David said, his gaze meeting Lyra's across the room. "Her stay here might be ending, but the journey we embarked on together is far from over." Lyra then took the stage, her presence commanding and graceful. "My time here has been transformative, thanks to all of you. I carry back not just knowledge, but experiences that have changed me deeply. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." As the official part of the evening concluded, the floor was open for a final celebration. Music filled the hall, a mix of Earth and Venerian melodies that had everyone moving. David and Lyra danced together, their movements a testament to their synchronized journey. Later, as guests began to depart, David and Lyra found a quiet corner. "I'm not great at goodbyes," David confessed. "Neither am I," Lyra smiled softly. "But I prefer to think of this as a see you later, rather than a goodbye." They talked about future plans, visits, projects, and the ongoing exchange of ideas and experiences. The promise of seeing each other again made the farewell slightly easier. As the night ended, they walked out of the hall together, the cool night air enveloping them. They paused, looking up at the stars, a reminder of that first night of stargazing and the vast universe they shared. "This isn't the end, Lyra. It's just another beginning," David said, optimism threading through his words. Lyra nodded, her hand squeezing his. "Another beginning in a universe that's a little smaller, thanks to us." With a final hug, they parted ways for now, each stepping into the night filled with memories and the promise of tomorrow. Their story, a blend of two vastly different cultures and hearts, continued to resonate as a melody of universal harmony, echoing the potential of unity in diversity.